Hello, Dwayne Groom here, your guide through this productivity challenge. Wow, here we are at the end of the 8-week challenge. 2 months have passed, and I wanted to congratulate you, especially if you gave it your best shot. Back when we started, we talked about the pessimist and the optimist, and, we all have a little bit of both in us. The question is, which one did you focus on? Now remember, the pessimist looks at the difficulty in every opportunity, and the optimist looks for opportunity in every difficulty. So if you trusted the program, you did the best you could each week, you would have created some great habits by now, possibly made a tremendous amount of money, and now have control over your career. You see, we have given you the right information to master this real estate industry. Now it's up to you to be consistent and accountable. We started out with those 8 keys to success. They were 8 areas of this business that you have to master. Remember, number 1 was attitude. That's a checkup from the neck up every day. Number 2 was booking appointments, both buyer appointments and seller appointments. Number 3 was generating leads, which is marketing, getting the phone to ring. Number 4 was listing presentations. And the example of a listing presentation, again, was make sure you pull up in front of the house and you're focused on the appointment. Park across the street, get out of the car, you're dressed like $1 million, strut to the door with an air of confidence as if you do this 10 times a day. Ring the bell. When you see the client, smile, pay them a sincere compliment, take them to the kitchen table, sit down and small talk. Talk about anything but real estate. Once real estate is brought up, you move towards the sales process. Number 5 was price and net, to show them how most successful sellers pick the right price and work out the net to see what they have to work with. Number 6, objection handling techniques. I just wanted to make sure you didn't fold like a cheap lawn chair, right? And remember, doing something as opposed to nothing will always get you further. Number 7, business operations. Wanted to show you a little bit of how to take care of your business so that your business will eventually start to take care of you. And finally, the 8th key, the 8th area that we need to master is time management. That's our most valuable commodity. And today is about time management as well as writing and presenting offers, and I'll talk about focus groups, but I also want to make today a celebration. So let's get into that 8th key to success, time management. I want to give you 7 facts. Number 1, you decide what you're going to do with your time. No one else does. Number 2, you can only do one activity at a time. I know that for a fact. Number 3, you all share time equally. We have 24 hours in a day. That doesn't change. We all have this same amount of time. Number 4, time is irreplaceable. Number 5, time is irreversible. 6, we cannot save time. You can't just say to the universe, today is a 22-hour day. I'm going to take those 2 hours and pop them onto tomorrow or plunk them onto tomorrow and have 26 hours. But number 7 here, you can do this. We can invest time. And remember, it is the most important investment you will ever make. So let me ask you a question. If you had $86,400 every day, but you couldn't carry it forward, meaning that if you invested in something, 24 hours later it just disappeared, meaning if you gave the money to someone else, 24 hours it just disappeared. Really, you had to do something with the $86,400, but there'd be no record of it 24 hours later. What would you do with that money? Well, you'd spend it, wouldn't you? See, there's 86,400 seconds in a day. So let me give you a little quiz here on time management. You just answer these questions true or false. In fact, take a pen if you're able to right now and just write a T or an F after each question that I ask or each statement. And what we're going to do is at the end we're going to add up the T's. We're going to add up the ones that you answered true to and see where you stand with your time management. So here it is. You ready? Number 1. I count all my time as on time and try to get satisfaction out of every minute of my time. Number 2, I try to enjoy whatever I'm doing. Number 3, I build on success. Number 4, I never waste time worrying about my mistakes. Number 5, I put signs where I can see them to remind me of what I want to accomplish. 6, I concentrate on only one thing at a time. 7, I never let others control what I do. 8, I handle each piece of paper only once. Number 9, by the way, if you're cleaning off your desk and you got rid of some papers that were kind of important, don't worry, they'll just show up again a different color. Number 9, I use a to-do list and never omit the hard things to do. Number 10, I often stop to think about what the best use of my time is at any given moment. Number 11, I always use the 90-10 rule. Just a reminder, remember, 10% of the agents out there know what they need to do. They focus on high-income producing activities only. 12, I cut off non-productive activities as soon as possible. 13, here's a tough one. 13, I do not think of my work in my off time. 14, I delegate everything I can to others. And finally, 15, I remind myself that there's always time for what's important, like family. Yes? So add up your T's. And according to Alan Lincoln, who's the time management guru out there, I want to give you your results here. Now, they say that if you have between 13 and 15 T's, is there any of you out there? That means that you're time management experts, and today will be a polishing for you. We're going to get more into the time management. If you have between 10 and 12 T's, you're good at time management, but today's lesson will bring you up to the next level. If you have between 6 and 9, and if I was to ask you how many of you are there, most of you would be there. You need to take some notes, though. If you have between 3 and 5, you are all wandering around aimlessly. Take lots of notes. Copy your neighbor's notes. Go home and make more notes and listen to today's CD 10 times. And if you had between 0 and 2, oh my, you have zero concept of time. So let's continue on with time management here. Here's a couple of things to ponder. To understand the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a grade. To understand the value of 1 month, ask a mother who gave birth prematurely. To understand the value of 1 week, ask the editor of a weekly newspaper. To understand the value of 1 hour, ask 2 lovers waiting to meet. It seems like an eternity. To understand the value of 1 minute, ask a person who just missed a plane. Go ahead and ask me. To understand the value of 1 second, ask a person who just avoided an accident. And to understand the value of 1 millisecond, ask a person who won silver at the Olympics. Think about that, silver and gold. That's like a photo finish, and yet one of them will get $1 million in endorsements. So to better understand time, we need to think about 3 areas in our life. We have business life, family life, and personal life. And in the business life and family life, if they are both in balance, then your personal life will be in balance. If your business life and family life are out of balance, then you'll never achieve a personal balance. You see, we only have 168 hours in a week. Everybody gets the same amount of time. Nobody gets any more or any less. So if those are the 3 areas in our life that we have to be in balance, then the question is this: what are our objectives for each of these areas? For our business life, our main objective should be to make a good living and love what you do. In your family life, your main objective should be to love and support your family in any way you can. And your main objective for personal life, to be at peace with yourself and like what you see in the mirror. So that brings us to our highest priorities. So back on the business life, for us to make a good living and love what we do, what's our highest priority? Well, it's building inventory. See, if you don't list, you won't last, and nothing's more important than getting listings. What do you think our highest priority would be for our family life? Our objective was to love and support your family any way you can. Your highest priority is this: to care about what family cares about, because that's what caring is all about. And in your personal life, your highest priority, well, to be at peace with yourself and to like what you see in the mirror, really you need to be able to enjoy your time off work and not think about it at all. So That brings us to some activities, some high priority activities. We've got our objective, our main objective, our highest priority. And now, what are some activities that we need to do? For example, in the business life, what activities do you need to focus on to build inventory? Now, personally, I think this is really easy. Back in lesson 1 and 2, we started talking about 2 methods, which was proactive prospecting and reactive prospecting. And there was 10 ways. I find this really easy. See, when you take the program, easy in understanding what you need to do is what I'm talking about. You have 10 ways. Master them all, be consistent, and that'll help you build inventory. I find that most of the agents in my class have more trouble finding out what kind of activities to do with family or with their personal life. So let me give you a few of those activities. What are some great activities to show that you care what family cares about, because that's what caring is all about? Well, what do the kids like to do? What does your wife like to do? What does your husband like to do? Other family members and friends, things like that. What activities people like to do? Take some time to think about this. It's really important. But here's a couple activities. For example, camping, movie night. Could be some sports. Could be either watching sports or actually going and seeing your son play football or hockey, or go to church maybe. Or here's a good one, date night once a week. That would be great. Personal life. What would be some great activities for your personal life? Now, one of the things to enjoy your time off work and not to think about it, you probably want to include sleep. Another one might be reading or go to the gym, maybe going for a walk. And how about retail therapy? There's a good one for you. So, how should we divide our time? I'll give you a couple examples here. But, I want to reflect back on today's lesson. There was a little bit of an exercise I gave you. This one, to me personally, is the hardest exercise in the whole productivity challenge. The reason I believe it is that what I'm trying to do is get you to take a look at how you spent your time going back 24 hours at a time, and not going back until we've got the first 24 hours out of the way. So on the chart, we put down business time, family time, and personal time, and we backed up from today. So for example, if our class was on a Tuesday, we would go back Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. So we'd go back, and what I challenged you to do was try to figure out exactly what you did for the last 24 hours, including sleep. So you had your business time, and I wanted you to itemize each activity. And I wanted you to itemize each activity you did for family and personal. And when you came up with 24 hours, you were able to move back to the next day. And I told you, this is so hard, I'll even let you use your day timers. How did you do on this? Because what I wanted to do was find out if we were losing any time. So I'll ask you this question again. How much are we worth per hour? Are we worth $10 an hour? Are we worth $100 an hour or $1,000 an hour? If you picked a number over $100 an hour, in my opinion, then we have to make sure that if we're losing a half hour or an hour or 2 hours out of a day, we have to look at time as if it was money. So here's another question for you. If you're worth $100, or let's say even $500 an hour, and if you were to go into your bank account and, let's say there was $500 missing one day, what would you do? Would you keep looking until you track down that money? Probably, right? So if we're worth $500 an hour and you're going back 24 hours and you can't find what you did for a whole hour, that'd be like losing, what, $500. Wouldn't it make sense to at least track down and find out what happened to that time? Because, see, time is our most valuable commodity. It really is. So are we a little bit out of balance? Well, before we move on to some tips that I can give you on time management, I'll give you a couple examples of where we should be putting our time. For business, now this isn't written in stone, so you don't have to do it, but I'm just recommending that we work no more than about 44 hours a week. In fact, I'd prefer if you worked less. Would you? So an example would be maybe 5 8-hour days and 1 4-hour day. That's 44 hours. For family, it'd be great to see at least spend 45 hours a week with them. Now, when you divide that by 7, you don't have very many hours. And plus, you should always take at least 1 free day off. And that's where most of your time should be spent with family. Personal time, that leaves about 79 hours a week. Now, when you take off about 7 hours a night of sleep, that's 49 hours a week. That only leaves you about 30 hours. Divide that by 7, and you only have a few hours a day to do some things for yourself. So, would you like some tips on time management? Well, here we go. The first tip is use the income converter. Now, that's in the back in your exhibits on page E51. Let me take a few minutes to go through this with you because I think this is really important. What we're going to do is we're going to take the income that you want to make each year and convert that into the number of real estate conversations you need to have each day. So on the first line, it says my income goal for the next 12 months. Now, you can put in whatever number you want, but I'm going to start with what I think is a low number, by the way, but an easy number for us to work with. So I'm going to put $100,000 in there. All right. So number one, my income goal for the next 12 months is $100,000. Number two, my average commission per transaction. Now, this could vary. I mean, it can be a huge number or it could be a fairly smaller number. Depends where you do real estate. I just want to put the number 5,000 in there just to make the math a lot easier for us, okay? So my average commission per transaction is $5,000. Number three, in order to achieve my goal, I have to close 20. We've divided line 1 by line 2. Number 4, the number of listings required to close for you to hit your goal. Now, listings are the name of the game, and top producers' ratio is about 75% listings sold to 25% sales. By the way, if I haven't mentioned this before, I want to mention it again. Every time you get a listing, buyers just fall in your lap. You don't even have to look for them. They're looking for you because inventory brings them in. Now, where was I? 25% sales. Okay, so number 5, number of sales required to close to hit my goal, 5. So you got 15 listings you need to close and 5 sales. So one you're working with sellers, the other one you're working with buyers. Number 6, the average percentage of listings taken by your office that close. Now, this percentage can vary, it really can. Now, your office, if the market's tough or if they don't know how to price as good as they should, that percentage could be really low. I'm going to make it a little bit high, again, just to make the math easier for you, and you can adjust that on your own later. But I'm going to say that if properties are priced right and your office is doing what they're supposed to do, they'll close about 95% of their deals. Number 7, the average percentage of sales written by your office at close. Let's put 95% in there just to work through this. Number 8, number of sales contracts needed to write. So if you take line 5 and divide it by line 7, you will see that you have to write at least 6, according to the percentages there, for 5 to close. So that brings us to 9, the number of new listings needed. That would be very similar. Instead of 15, you need 16. So divide line 4 by line 6. Number 10, appointments needed to obtain 1 listing. In the class, we told you that you need to book a minimum of how many listings a week? 3, and there's a reason for that. If you book 3, you almost always get 1. 1 will cancel, 1 you might have to follow up, but 1 you'll get. So number 10, again, the appointments needed to obtain 1 listings, 3 appointments. Number 11, number of contacts needed to obtain 1 appointment. As you get better and better and better, this number will change to probably 10, I would say. The number of contacts needed to obtain 1 appointment, though, I want you to put 25 in there for now. That will change. Number 12, number of listing appointments needed annually. We're just going to multiply line 9 by line 10, and that'll bring you to 48. So we need to book 48 listing appointments a year. So in the last few, we're going to divide and break this all down to a daily activity. So 13, number of listing appointments needed per month. We're going to divide line 12 by 12. So 48 divided by 12 months brings us to only 4 listing appointments needed per month. And in this program, I've been telling you to book and go on 3 a week. And now, for $100,000, we're only at 4 a month. Wow. 14, number of listings appointments needed per week. Well, 4 weeks in a month, right? So we'll divide line 13 by 4. So now we're down to 1 appointment a week. Consistently should bring us $100,000 a year. 15, number of contacts per week to reach my listing goal. So we need 1 appointment a week. And based on the 25 again, we'll say that multiply line 14 by line 11, you will have 25 contacts per week. How many days a week are you going to work? I recommend 5 or less. So number 16, the number of contacts needed per day. Divide line 15 by 5 working days. You know what? That really comes down to having 5 real estate conversations a day Now, I say that because sometimes people will think a contact is a contact, where how you want to sell, no, count that as one. That doesn't count. You could bump into somebody and they might say, oh, you're a realtor, are you? Because you have your name badge on, and you say yes. They go, that's nice, and they leave. That's not a contact. I'm talking about a real estate conversation. If you commit to 5 real estate conversations a day, not worrying about the results, and you do that 5 days a week, come on here, test the trainer. Tell me what results you get by the end of the year. I bet you it's not 100,000. I bet you it's 200 just based on these right here. And you know what? What if you want to double your income? Have 10 real estate conversations a day. What if you want to double that? And so on and so on. So that's the first tip for time management, is use the income converter. The second one is follow the success formula that we gave you in the beginning of the program. And here's what we said was, number 1, bring in a saleable listing each week. Number 2, separate the lookers from the buyers. Number 3, always use buyer agency or buyer listing. Number 4, show and sell your own listings. The third tip, always use the bona fide appointment checklist. Do you remember those 6 items that we wanted to put in place before we went on an appointment? Number 1 was this: all decision makers are present, especially the ones on title. Number 2, are they really interested in selling? Number 3, you wanted to make sure you had enough information for a CMA. Number 4, schedule enough time, book a window. Number 5, you know the price range home that they live in. And 6 is that you know their mortgage balance. Is this coming back to you? We went through all this. Number 4 is track your results. 5, analyze and weed out daily and focus on activities that make you money. 6, finish what you started. 7, separate the lookers from the buyers. Remember, we want to look for people that have some money and somebody that's motivated, and make sure there's some urgency. There's a timeline when they want to move into their new home. Number 8, the 8th tip, use technology, embrace technology. 9, always use a to-do list and a not-to-do list. Why? Mostly for peace of mind. 10, tour your office listings and preview with your buyers. You should know the inventory you have in your office. But in the same sense, it doesn't make sense to go around and look at a bunch of new listings that are on the market unless you have your buyers with you. You know what? You think you know what they want? They don't even know what they want. So take them with you. 11, waste time honestly. What do you think is the most popular software in the real estate industry? Well, it's Solitaire. You know, for you just to be in the office and play some game on your computer, that's not high income producing activities. You know, if you're in the office, you're not doing nothing, you may as well leave and go to the gym. 12, delegate everything possible. 13, prospect in the evenings or Saturday morning. Now, why do I say that now? Well, you know, because the first few lessons, the first 6, I believe, I told you to get into the office early and start to prospect. See, what I was trying to do was to create some good habits for you. But why do you think it's best to prospect in the evening or Saturday mornings? Well, because most people are home, right? 14, when you are finished your day, you know, will you use this? Be honest with yourself. Ask you, will you really do this? Will you clean off your desk and make your to-do list when you finish up your day? If you do, it'll almost guarantee that you'll sleep better. You won't think about work as much. It'll almost guarantee that you'll have the best start for each day as well. So before we move to the next segment of today's lesson, let me go over something with you called If You Can. Here it goes. If you can start the day without caffeine, if you can get going without pep pills, if you can always be cheerful, ignoring aches and pains, if you can resist complaining and boring people with your troubles, if you can eat the same food every day and be grateful for it, if you can understand when loved ones are too busy to give you any time, if you can forgive a friend's lack of consideration, if you can overlook it when those you love take it out on you when no fault of yours something goes wrong, if you can take criticism and blame without resentment, if you can ignore a friend's limited education and never correct him, if you can resist treating a rich friend better than a poor friend, if you can face the world without lies and deceit, and if you can conquer tension without medical help, if you can relax without liquor, and if you can sleep without the aid of drugs, and if you can honestly say that deep in your heart you have no prejudice against creed or color, religion or politics, then, my friend, you're almost as good as your dog or cat. All right, let's move on here and talk about writing an offer. Here's a couple of things, a couple of steps here I want to go over. The first step here is this. Get your best offer first. And here's a good note to remember is sometimes you have to offer more to pay less. Let me say that again. Sometimes you have to offer more to pay less. So let's pretend you're with a buyer and you found a property that they like. And on the listing, let's say it's priced right. Let's just imagine it's priced right for this to work. And you ask them where they might even ask you, how much should we offer? Well, and obviously, that's the asking price is on the listing, and that would make sense. But everyone's always trying to save $1 or $2. That's just human nature. So you might ask them, where do you think you should start? Now, if you ever had somebody that offers so low, the only thing for a seller to do is either to reject the offer or counter at full list price. See, the problem with this area here is we just don't know where you draw the line, where if you're too low, they're going to counter at list, or when you're just over, it's enough that they'll accept. If the property is priced right and you come in within a few $1,000s, which is what I mean by this, what I mean again was sometimes you have to offer more to pay less. See, if they offered too low, they've lost their window of opportunity of saving a few $1,000s. But if they offer a bit more, close to list, real firm offer, high deposit, not too many conditions, and maybe the seller possession date, and you go in and you present this offer properly, you know what? The sellers might just accept it and they save themselves a couple of $1,000s. It's possible. Step 2, if you can't get the best offer first, then you're going to have to start asking them some open-ended questions like, why do you want to offer less than list price? And I can only think of 2 reasons. One is they don't believe it's worth it. Or 2, they want it for less than it's worth. Okay, so in step 3, I would say to you, why don't you ask them a yes-no question? So if they don't believe it's worth it, you could say, well, if I could prove to you that this house is worth every penny, would you offer list price or full price or close to it? If it's yes, which is step 4, pull out the comparables. Now, this way you can prove it, and if the comps don't work, you'll move to step 5. Back on in step 2, when they said, maybe they want to buy it for less than it's worth, it could be a little bit of a problem with that. Now, if it's an investor, I understand. They want to make sure that they're making money off the purchase. But if it's just somebody that's always lowballing all the time, maybe you have to redirect your focus on who you're going to work with. Yes? Number 5, like I said, if the comps don't work, we'd move to step 5. So, well, let's pretend for a second that they said they didn't believe it's worth it, and you said, if I could show you or prove to you that the house is worth every penny, would you consider list price or full price? If they said, well, yeah, if I could see that it's worth it, you take out the comps, and you're showing them the comparable sales in the area, and they say, well, it sounds like based on this, they're pretty close. Then maybe back up to the best offer first, maybe they'll save them a few dollars, right? Step 5, and we'll talk about the let's pretend. In other words, what you're going to be doing is what I call reduced to the ridiculous. So let's say they think it's worth, $20,000 less than the asking price. And some of these numbers I'm going to give you, you might have to adjust. But let's pretend it's $20,000. And you know what? You're looking at, let's say, 6%, let's say. And if you reduce that down to the ridiculous, meaning $1,200 a year down to $100 a month down to $3.20 a day, that almost starts to sound a little bit ridiculous, doesn't it? Especially if you start to build value on the home on that $3.20. You start talking about the features of the home. You might even ask them, are you sure you want to miss out on all these features just for a few bucks a day? Maybe you even offer to pay for the first day. Take out $3. Well, you know what? Step 7 here, it says maybe they'll split the difference. What if they do that? What if they say, well, okay, we'll come up $10,000. Now, remember, I'm talking about a home that's priced right. You need to reduce to the ridiculous again. So take the $10,000, that's 6%, that's $600 a year, $50 a month. Now we're down to $1.60 a day. Say, well, hey, you know what? I could pay for 2 days now for you. In step 8, we talked about this. If that doesn't work, let's say they were willing to split the difference and you can't get them to move that last part. Maybe ask them this. What can we give back to the seller? Maybe it's the appliances. Maybe it is a seller's date. Maybe it's removing some conditions, not putting them on there, a larger deposit. Step 9, I wanted to talk about removing buyer's remorse. So imagine that you're able to reduce to the ridiculous, build value, you split the difference. Maybe when you reduce to the ridiculous again, they said, yeah, it just seems kind of ridiculous for us to start all over again and lose what we want anyways for just $1 or $2 a day. And so it's time to present the offer. And you go in and you present the offer, and next thing you know, have you ever had this where the buyer and the seller have agreed on price, and the next day the phone rings and it's the buyer? And you know what I'm talking about here. See, we also need to be able to remove buyer's remorse, because they always feel like they bought something, and they haven't yet. There's so much more to go through before possession. So keep them hoping. Let them know that, you haven't bought anything yet. Right now, all we're doing is we have an offer. It's conditional. You guys have agreed on the price. Now it's time for me to really do my real job, which is to work through everything for you and keep the deal together. So keep your fingers crossed. Keep them hoping. Step 10 is another tip I want to give you when you're presenting an offer. And that's where we're heading to now, is remember this: never present in front of friends or family. There's no seller in the world that in front of friends or family will come down even a couple of $1,000s. Okay, so let's talk about that, presenting an offer. First thing we need to do, remember this: when we pull up in front of the house, we need to be focused. We need to have the right attitude, be dressed like $1 million, strut to the door, ring the bell, smile, pay them a sincere compliment, take them to the kitchen table. Doesn't this sound familiar? Yeah, it's the same for every time you pull up in front of someone's house. You want to make sure that you're selling yourself first all the time. You get to the kitchen table and you small talk. Maybe sit down and recap the seller's plans. To make this simple, I'd like to just go through this as if we were presenting it to our own listing, just so we don't get in a debate over agency in the classes. Fair enough? So let's just back up there again to when we recap the seller's plans. You might know that if it's your listing. You might even talk about how great the buyers are. It's not that easy to find the right buyer. People think that it is easy. It isn't, because, like I said, you want to make sure you have somebody that has money. You want to make sure that they're motivated and make sure there's some urgency in the matter. So 3, once you've gone through that, you might go over the process and explain your job. Explain to them that you want to give them the facts and make recommendations if they ask. The next part is you want to explain the sellers what their job is. And their job really is to accept the offer and move forward, or they could reject it and start all over again, or they could even have a counteroffer, which really is a rejection. And remember to always pass on compliments from the buyers. It just seems like most people would prefer to sell their house to somebody they like. Number 4, we're going to start to review the offer. All right? So you take out the offer and you start at the top and set aside the price. You could even explain it to them and say, one of the main reasons I put price aside is I just don't want to talk to inattention, meaning that if I say the price, all the other reasons why you might not even hear. You won't be focusing on it at all. So let me go over why the offer is written this way and why the price is what it is. So you set aside the price and explain the conditions, review the offer again from the bottom back to the top, and confirm yes often, all right? So you say the chattels, for example, or the appliances. So we have the fridge and the stove, the washer, the dryer, the dishwasher. Is that correct? They go, yes, that's right. And the possession date is that correct? Yes, it is. Okay. And you just confirm yes a lot. And finally, when you get it all said and done with the deposits, the conditions, the possession dates, and everything, then it's time to say the price. So when you say the price, if needed, use the net sheet as well. Now, if you remember back in Lesson 5, we went into pricing. We went in to show them how most successful sellers pick the right price. Now, the net sheet you may not need all the time, but every once in a while, there'll be an offer that comes in. And like I said, it's human nature. They're going to try to maybe get a little bit more. And if you said to them, well, the price is, and whatever it is, they say, well, we would just like to get maybe a little bit more. If the net sheet is actually less than what the offer already is, take out the net sheet and show them what you went over back when you were on the listing presentation. And if they agree that, well, it looks like we're going to get more than we actually needed anyways, then close for the signature. So a question here I have for you is, what do you do if they say, we just want to think about it? In other words, giving you a stall, right? So the net sheet's not going to help you. Nothing's going to help you. They just say, we just want to think about it. Well, here's your answer. You need to convert that stall into the objection. Then use the objection handling steps that we taught you. Handle that objection. You know, it's usually using the possible costs to waiting, and I asked you, please master that tool. Okay, as we wrap up our productivity challenge, I want to give you a couple of other ideas on how to keep the momentum going. I'd like you to consider getting a group together, a focus group, and I've got an agenda here that you can put together. And number one is, in your agenda, you should call the meeting to order. You should have a chairperson, and you should rotate the chairperson. And number two, go over weekly activities in your focus group. Number three, share a success story and a challenge or a problem. 4, discuss a solution to the challenge or problem. 5, at each meeting, discuss a new marketing or technology idea. 6, review the 8 keys to success constantly. 7, have a property and referral exchange. 8, set your goals and commitments for the next meeting. 9, have all members join coaching. And 10, recommit to the group and end the meeting. What I'm really trying to get you to do is try to take a little bit of the lessons that we've done and incorporate it with the group. Be consistent. It'll help you with accountability, and it will increase your production. So I know we're at lesson 8, and I know we're going to part and go separate ways, but you know what? I still want to give you a weekly activity. I want you to take this weekly activity, and I challenge you to check yourself a week from now and see if you completed that. Get your group started and continue to go with your activities. So the first thing I want you to do after today's lesson is go to the office again and prospect. The second thing I want you to do is go on a minimum of 3 listing appointments a week. 3, continue to keep track on your weekly report. It's a great habit. 4, always keep track of your time. Remember that exercise earlier today. 5, form a focus group, as I mentioned, focus group of your own. 6, call for your free coaching session. Then consider ongoing coaching. And you can call me direct and talk to me about it as well. Number 7, write a letter to your broker or manager and thank them for this program, for bringing me to your region. Number 8, if you could write me a testimonial letter on your company letterhead and either mail it to me or email it to me, I would just love that so much. I would appreciate that a lot. 9, schedule a minimum of 1 free day off. And 10, listen to Lesson 8 CD a minimum of 3 times. So, before we get into our graduation here, let's review the tool chest. Throughout the 8 lessons, we had certain tools I was giving you. In fact, there was 30 of them. Okay, so let's go over those 30 tools. The first tool was the real estate success formula. Always find a saleable listing. Do you remember that one? The second one was the prospecting track. Prospecting track is like when you called someone, you said, "Hello, Mr. Smith. Yes, this is Dwayne Groom from ABC Realty. I was just calling to make sure you weren't thinking of selling." "Oh, you're not, are you?" "Well, the reason I called is I just listed a property down your street. Would you consider?" And if you get a yes or a weak yes, we went into what I called the W5, these open-ended questions. And then we wanted to show you how you could have a couple of tools that you could use as a fair trade. And we showed you how to use the possible costs associated with waiting. Then we went into the bona fide appointment checklist, and at the end of that lesson, we went into what I called the 658, which is a 658 on listing for sale by owners. Then we went over a list of 10 more fair trade items, moving into the next tool, which was the pre-listing package, selling yourself in advance. We gave you some great tips on open houses. How did you like that survey? Next tool was converting the ad call. We've given you a call form, and all you have to do is be committed to having that form in front of you when you're talking to someone on the phone. Next one was the bona fide buyer appointment. So when we're converting the ad call into an appointment, we wanted to bona fide that appointment. Next was the sales process. Then we went into 4 salesmanship ingredients. We went into the series of questions, as well as the marketing plan, how to present your marketing plan, the presentation method, which was FBCT, fact, benefit, close, tie down. Took us into the comparison chart. And then we had the net sheet. We went into the 2 forms or the price reduction technique, which brought us into the wholesale retail technique, then closing for the signature, then the 6-month listing, like our ace in the hole was our last resort. We did a property checklist, how to make a home more saleable. We spent a whole lesson on objection handling, then into building a team, the buyer presentation, time management, writing offers, presenting offers, and finally, the focus group. So did we cover all this? Yes, we did. So that brings us to this. Congratulations, graduates. You are all top producers. Now, to pass the program, you needed to list a minimum of 3 properties, and I handed out certificates for that. And we've had awards. I hope all of you got certificates and all of you got awards. We've had you team captains and assistant team captains, I want to thank you guys so much. The top teams, to have that challenge and that competition in the class, if you could take that out into your focus group and have a little bit of a challenge going, it would just increase your income as well. Those of you who were the top listers and the top producers, good for you. And you know what? The award I love giving away the most is the person that improved the most, not only in income, but in time management and commitment. So saying all that, I would like to invite you to keep us as part of your team. You know, we try to make it back to every city about every 12 to 18 months. And let us know if you'd like to be part of our referral program and to make a little extra money. Our website address is www.dwaynegroomseminars.com or www.dwaynegroom.com. And our toll-free number is 1-877-404-1500. Please stay in touch and keep the success stories coming. Let me just read a little poem for you here and we'll wrap it up. The poem goes like this. Believe in yourself and in the power you have to control your own life day by day. Believe in the strength that you have deep inside, and your faith will help show you the way. Believe in tomorrow and what it will bring. Let a hopeful heart carry you through. For things will work out if you trust and believe. There's no limit in what you can do. So I just wanted to thank you for having me. Have a super year, and God bless.